Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the sports section, Long Island's longest running sports talk program, and the second longest running show on WUSB in its original time slot. It's Lister and Us in the same spot since 1981, and the usual crew on duty tonight. Matt Mankiewich, Zach Wilson, Jim Ferchland, Ken Fermin, Joe Soccoa will be joining us later. And also with us right now, or she will be joining us momentarily, Hailey Zeise from the women's basketball team. And we haven't heard from her yet, but guys, welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome. Thanks, Matt, for having us on, as always. Also, should mention, I got an email from Isabel yesterday. WUSB, 43 years old as of yesterday or this morning.
Well, yeah, June 27th is our anniversary.
Yes.
And we celebrate it by replaying the first few minutes we went on the air on FM on June 27th, 1977. So, with that said, we do our annual birthday, and every 5 years we have a reunion of some of the old WUSB alumni. But this year, we're only 43.
The young age of 43. No, it was great just being able to go back and tuning in, many of you did as well. Just listening how much has changed, obviously, from the first go-around back in 1973 and today, just audio, just testing out the works. And obviously, just the growth of the station, all the shows, especially the sports section. Just the longest
Well, the one thing
show here
that hasn't changed so much. Well, actually, the biggest change happened 3 years ago when we moved into the new studios. Yeah. But prior to that, not that much changed in that time. And that was just the 40th anniversary, in 2017. So we celebrated the 40th in the new digs because, remember, we moved in January. Mm-hmm. But the first 40 years, well, you saw that old board in the studio.
Yeah. Prehistoric.
Yeah, but cutting edge technology in its day. So, is Hailey calling in? What's the story now?
Well, she is aware that she's supposed to be with us tonight, so I'm just giving her. So I'm just sent her a message to remind her, so she would know how to get on.
Well, okay, so she should be jumping in on the conversation very soon.
Still a stacked show.
But
Hailey as well.
Let's go through some of the news items, and Hailey's return is a big one.
Yeah, no doubt it is. We just found out on Monday when she put that message out on Instagram and Twitter. After the 2019-20 season, which was, of course, cut short due to the coronavirus pandemic, she was a junior, but she was able to graduate a year early. But apparently, in that situation, she still, after thinking about this for months, she decided to return for one more year of eligibility as she plans to take her master's at Stony Brook.
Well, that's usually what you do when you graduate. You got your bachelor's already.
Yeah.
So you got to do something and study for your master's or other advanced degree. But it's a golden opportunity to do it. You're still on scholarship. And you got an extra year from the red shirt. So why not advance your education?
And I'm also really surprised because all of us watched Hailey Zeise play defense, and I'm pretty sure, Ken, if you remember, or Zach, you remember, Hailey Zeise, in our eyes, is probably one of the best defenders in the conference, and I don't think she got any defensive teams at all this season. And right. I kind of thought she was snubbed with that. So I'm pretty sure her going in for her final year of eligibility as a graduate, I think that more than likely she has something to prove, because a lot of eyes were really, really shocked that Hailey Zeise's name did not come up on any all-defensive America East team, second, first, third, whatever the case may be. I was stunned, and I'm not even like homering for her, but I feel that just every single game, her defensive presence was felt by the opposition every time. She could lock up any player on the floor at any time on the floor. And literally, you want to talk about someone who prides herself on defense? Hailey Zeise is the definition of who does that consistently every single game.
Yeah, even I've been able to watch those games as well, especially when I've been broadcasting them play by play. Even I can see from time to time what type of factor Hailey Zeise is when she's on the court. Probably the fact is she may not have gotten been named to any America East All Defensive Team or Defensive Player of the Year, probably because she didn't seem to have too many aspects that you would see from a Defensive Player of the Year. She didn't have too many blocks per game or steals per game. I think for her, it was just a matter of her positioning on the court when she was able to stick close to her opponents and prevent them from making any serious play in any regard.
And it's important to note, too, that point, that a big factor is because for the majority of the games, she was guarding the best player, whether it was Kai Moon or McVeigh for Maine, Kai Moon, of course, Binghamton, America's Player of the Year.
Tasia
Oliver for UMBC. Yep, for UMBC. So, having to guard the best player is definitely a much tougher task, and she had to go through a lot of work, extra work too in practice. So that's definitely gonna be a trait and someone who Coach McCombs and Stony Brook team is really looking forward to having back for another year. But on the topic too, again, we're seeing the effects of the COVID-19 disease, what impact it's having on the players now in terms of people leaving and now in this case coming in. For basketball, for the Stony Brook program, she's for sure the biggest name we know that is returning. And of course, for the women's team, she's the only one that could have been eligible anyway, but still something that, and I think when we speak to her, she'll probably dive more into it. But ultimately, it seems like it was going to be her final season until the season got cut. Now, of course, with everything going on now, you're seeing people in these positions start to make these tough choices. So she's probably going to be the first. Probably a big name. We'll see if this may be a trend in the coming weeks, or see more students or in programs have that choice and make the return to their schools.
Yeah, and this just revamps the defense for the Seawolves as well. And you want to talk about, honestly, someone who always is sacrificing her body too. There's probably maybe one or two other players on Stony Brook, may have been KK Hilaire or possibly Anastasia Warren, but Hailey Zeise, every single time, if there was a fast break or someone was driving to the basket, she would sacrifice her body, take the charge all the time. And there was not many players that really did that. Hailey Zeise was the leadership on defense when it came to taking charges and just locking down defenders at a consistent pace. And that's something that I was just
looking at the all-defensive team.
Yeah.
Go ahead. The all-defensive team, which was named, of course, at the end of the regular season. But you got to remember that Cheyenne Clark made all defensive, and you got to knock her off it.
No.
Hannah Krimble from Vermont, Kai Moon, Player of the Year,
Mm-hmm.
Julia Sanchez from UMass Lowell, and Amanda Torres from New Hampshire.
Okay.
So there just wasn't enough room.
Right, and that's
she has an opportunity next year to make the all-defensive team easily.
And that's the impressive thing too. Is why we say it and I keep bringing it up is that all five of those, they all had a category or two, mainly one category where they were just completely dominant. We saw Cheyenne, it was of rebounding, and it was for steals for some of the others. But for Hailey, she, again, on paper, she wasn't putting up incredible numbers like that. I think she was averaging just like 5 or 6 points and then 4 rebounds a game. Not too impressive on paper. Some of the scorers, like India Pagan and KK Hilaire, averaging double digits, 20 points in some games. But her to have that ability to lead the team, guarding the other team's best players, and then still setting her teammates up in position so they can score is a leadership factor that, the team is definitely going to enjoy and take advantage of for the upcoming season, especially with her coming back, having previously thought that she would be gone.
It certainly does revamp. When Hailey Zeise, also, you arguably are bringing back one of your best shooters too. I mean, someone who also can play both sides of the floor, but the offensive game was lacking sometimes because she was just a player on offense who more than likely cut to the basket when she didn't have the ball, or if was wide open in the wing for a three. That was really her
Right,
object
and
of game.
technically she was the best 3-point shooter, knocking down
36%?
very shot. Yeah. But yeah, and on that topic too, it's interesting, and we're gonna discuss more of her when she joins in the next few minutes. But you're gonna see a bit more competition too internally, because Stony Brook originally brought in a transfer that you could assume, at least I would assume, was gonna fill one of those positions in Narimor Reyes, who's entering her junior year, 2 years at JUCO, and she really balled out there back in Florida, and back in Florida and JUCO, and she's someone who lights up scoring and rebounding, and as well as other forwards that are already on the team. Mackenzie Boucher, for example, still there. We've entering her senior year as well. So with a team looking to fill in some of the holes of their lineups, you're going to see competition more of a hard-gritted edge for this upcoming year.
You can even throw in Erlet Scott as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Another transfer who I have a lot of big expectations for. Someone similar to me, she reminds me of Jarrell Matthews, two-way player. She has a very nice shot, and she also has a good defensive play as well. I'm excited for her to come to and contribute to Caroline McCombs and the Seawolves. But then again, you really didn't lose a ton. But when you lose Hailey Zeise at the time, it was costly and you lost Cheyenne Clark. So you basically lost two at the time of arguably your two best defenders. And then you really had to look for someone else to step in for that leadership role. But if I had to really say if anyone else wanted to step in for that role, probably would be either India Pagan or Mackenzie Boucher. Both of them can block shots. Both can also sacrifice their body. And they're very coachable. McCombs can switch them around. They can play different positions. And I think that's also a solid asset that they know their IQ for the game is very, very impressive. So with all that said, I think Stony Brook's going to be just fine this year. They may not win 28 games, but, they'll be just fine with Hailey Zeise back in the lineup, regarding if any injuries or health issues concerning COVID, whatever the case may be. Right. If Hailey Zeise is back in the lineup, and with all these changes, like the JUCO transfers that you said, Erlet Scott, you also have Annie Warren, who may be the top scorer next year, who I think is going to absolutely go ballistic in her junior year. I'm really looking forward to the progress that they made, even though they are kind of taking a step backwards, losing Cheyenne Clark.
Right, and on the topic too, I think it's important. We're discussing the American East. One team you can't leave out the discussion is Maine, and it's something that benefits Stony Brook too is being able to stay competitive with a pretty loaded Maine team on the women's side. You're Blanca Milan, who missed majority of the season due to injury, is going to return as a graduate. Also, Kelly Fogarty, who stood out. Doris Saar, Mayu Carroll, all seniors, but all of them bring that leadership and experience that they were looking for.
Sorry, Ken, I gotta cut you out there. Looks like we have Hailey Zeise on with us. Hailey Zeise, thank you for joining. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Thank you, Hailey.
Thank you for agreeing to be on the show with us tonight.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. So we were just talking about how about your decision to return for the Seawolves. How do you feel about returning to Stony Brook?
I'm super excited. I'm really excited to get back on the court with my teammates and to work with my coaches some more, and hopefully, bring home a championship title.
Hailey, it's Jim Ferchland.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. I just remember that time when we were doing that lacrosse game for 4 hours in the pouring rain that one time when me and Matt were calling that game. But aside from that, yeah, I know exactly. Aside from that, how long did it take to process this decision? And when, if you had to go back like weeks or days, where you felt that this was your permanent decision to come back for your final year of eligibility?
Yeah. So basically, when the season ended in March, I was pretty, devastated, just like the rest of us. And, I had kind of already set my hopes on hoping to become a GA or to move on. And I was pretty ready for that. But, that just not being able to finish out the season was really tough on me. And so in my search, for a GA position and to do all those things, I just felt like nothing was right. Just didn't feel complete. And just, I didn't have that gut feeling like what I was doing was right. So, Coach McCombs has been so patient with me, and we've had communication throughout this entire time. So, since March, and, just trying to process everything and seeing my teammates and seeing, things really come together and decisions being made for the upcoming season. I just knew in my heart that I had it in me for more. So, I had some injuries throughout the season. So getting those things right and talking to my doctor and stuff, it seems, I feel good and I feel ready. Like I can handle another season for sure. So, my coach and my teammates welcomed me back in with open arms, and I just couldn't be more excited to get back on the court.
Hey,
And you,
Ken here. Oh, do you want to go first?
yeah, you can go ahead.
All right. Well, Ken here. Just on the subject too, because you're saying you were still speaking, staying in contact with the coach, with the team. Among the 5 graduates, you're the only one that would have had the opportunity to come back. So, did you at the time, like senior day, did you have your mind and heart set that, yeah, this is going to be my final season, my final essentially few games of playoffs, and whatever would have happened after that? Like, do you think did you have, for example, were you set on saying, yeah, I'm okay, whatever happens?
Yeah, I think that I was pretty set. I had come to coach, a week or two before senior day and asked her if it was okay for me to walk, as I was pretty sure of my decision of this being my last season. So she was super open about that, and she was, super supportive as she is. And, the entire department, Sean Hilbrand, just like credit to all of them, honestly, for just making me feel so special on that day. And, I had this crazy dream. It's not so crazy, but I just had this dream of being in the NCAA tournament since I was, a little girl and watching University of Pittsburgh go to Sweet 16 when coach was actually a part of the team. So having this dream for so many years and being so close to it, I finally felt like this was my final moment. It was my last season. Everything was coming together for me. And so just to kind of see it, be pulled away from us so quick, it definitely was really tough and left that kind of doubt in my mind if this was really supposed to be my last season or not. I felt like it was, everything happens for a reason.
So Hailey, this is
Hailey,
Zach
Matt
here.
Mankiewich here.
Oh, okay, so you can go, Matt.
Yeah, let me get one in here. We were talking just before you came on the air about your abilities as a defensive player and maybe not necessarily getting the recognition you deserved on the all-defensive team. Is that going to be a goal next year? The all-defensive team was pretty crowded, let's be honest. But is that a goal for the coming season to get on the all-defensive team and be the lead on defense that you were this past year?
Yeah, I know, for me as a player, and my team knows this and my coaches know this, but, I will never strive to be the best. I don't really care about being the best in the conference, about, being the best, 1,000-point scorer or conference player. It's really about being the best for my team. So whatever that role is on my team, and this year, it was being that big defensive presence, and my team appreciated me so much, and I know that. So the recognition from my teammates and my coach was enough validation for me. And, everyone on that all defensive team, Cheyenne Clark, my teammate, my girl, everyone deserved the recognition just as much. So I don't think that, it was necessarily wrong by any means. Such a talented conference, such a competitive conference. So I definitely understand the decisions that were made there. And I'm just happy to do whatever I can for my team to, as long as we're the top team, that's all I really care about at the end of the day.
I love that response. And yeah, like Matt said before we were talking, when we look at the starting lineup for Stony Brook and you appear in there, and, the offensive numbers don't stand out, but certainly your defensive aspect of your game definitely does. And to me, arguably, you were one of the best defenders in the conference, and I felt that there wasn't a lot of respect going towards you. But when that final first team, second team, and third team all defensive team came out, and your name wasn't on that list, did you react as if you were snubbed?
No, not at all. Again, like I said, our conference is competitive, and I think we're finally starting to make waves nationally. And I think other teams and other conferences are really starting to see how competitive and how talented our players really are. And I think for me, and our team in general, it's not about talent. We work really hard. We pride ourselves on pounding the stone every single day, and that's our little mantra. And I think that, we don't care about the numbers. And even when we had our national streak and we had this and all these, all the press and all that stuff like that, we were really just focused on ourselves, focused on Stony Brook, and focused on, working hard every single day and getting ultimately to what we had committed to doing at the beginning of the season, which was getting an American East title.
So Hailey, this is Zach. Even though you didn't make any All-America East honors for women's basketball this season, there was one team that you did were able to be a part of, and that was the America East Helping Hands, which seems to be a pretty big honor. It's like being part of a team like that.
I mean, it's awesome. I think for me personally, I'm always striving, and, Coach McCombs and really just the whole department at Stony Brook does a really good job of transforming us not only as players, but as people. And, that's really important to me. And I've always wanted to leave walking away from Stony Brook just a better person, and I think that being at Stony Brook has gotten me involved in a lot of different organizations and a lot of things that I've become really passionate about. And I actually will be pursuing my master's degree in higher education administration in the hopes to work in an athletics department one day to see some of the changes that I want to see and to kind of help student athletes who are in my position. So yeah, it definitely meant a lot to me. I can't thank America East enough for that honor. It was super, super special.
And it goes without saying, really, you're a proven leader on and off the court, especially for the Stony Brook women's basketball team. You could be coming in as a graduate and as a senior as well. Be there definitely beneficial to a lot of young and new incoming players. With that said, I think one really big impact with you returning as well is it really continues to strengthen the Stony Brook team. And when you said it yourself a couple minutes ago, the America East is so competitive. You're looking at a main team where 4 5 stars next season are seniors, and people really dominant from Maeve Carroll to Simon to Blanca Milan coming back from injury. So how much are you looking forward to that big competition and rivalry continuing itself? So much experience there between the two teams.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I love it. And that's really what it's all about. For us, of course, in my heart, I think we really would have won that game, but we will never know that. And what I'm focused on is that last game we played against Maine, we lost. So we're all coming back, with a vengeance and coming back better than ever. I think that will be a huge rivalry this year. And I think it'll be super competitive games that, everyone's going to want to tune into for sure. So I'm definitely excited to get up against them. And they're extremely talented, extremely strong team all around, just great on offense, unbelievable. So we'll definitely have our work cut out for us as well. But, you can't count us out. Yeah, we have a lot of great players returning. We have some great transfers coming in. So we'll definitely be able to compete with them.
So it's no doubt that this past season was probably the best that the women's basketball team has ever seen, going 28-3. 2 of the 3 were in the conference, and the other was in the non-conference against a top 25 team. But I think that one of the most, for me, as far as I'm concerned, you're a Pittsburgh native. So when you went to Pittsburgh to play against the Panthers, that must have been a special game for you. Not just for you, but it was also for Mackenzie Boucher. So
yeah.
So you always talked about witnessing Pittsburgh being in the tournament, especially McCombs back in the days when she was part of that staff. What was it like for you to return to Pittsburgh and for you and Boucher to help the team make an upset win against the Power 5 team?
Yeah, I mean, it's overwhelming. My basketball roots are really deep rooted in, the University of Pittsburgh. That's really how I got my start, just going to Pitt camps and working. I played my high school championship game at the Peterson Event Center. So just to be able to go back there and to, be on the court with Mackenzie. And I think that's really what made it special, is being so close with Mackenzie and being able to share that moment with her while also sharing it with Coach McCombs, who's from there as well. And, my whole, we had more fans, I think, than they did, really. The support was just unbelievable. I mean, it was just an electric feeling. And of course, to come out with the win was just the cherry on top.
Hailey, I want to talk about something outside of basketball, especially concerning on where you're in the situation you are now. Not only do you pride yourself for the game of basketball and for defense, but you also take a lot of pride in the classroom. I want to talk about the journey on basically how in your junior year, I want to say that you took more credits than usual to graduate a year earlier. Can you talk to me about that process, especially the strenuous, rigorous journey of also being a student athlete simultaneously? Yeah, I mean, I feel like people can, look at us and say that we make it look easy. And I really think me and my teammates and, every student athlete, you kind of watch them and it's not easy, but it's they're making it through and they're doing these amazing things on the court. It's not easy, but, all the credit to, our department and our academic success.
our department just really helping us along the way. I wouldn't have been able to do it without my advisors. My advisors believed in me so much. And, when I told them I wanted to graduate in 3 years, they didn't even blink. They helped me do whatever I had to do. It was definitely a grind. But I think any student athlete in the situation, it's a grind, regardless of if you're loading up on credits or not. It's definitely difficult. But just the support from my teammates and my coaches and my advisors, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
I just feel that it's somewhat unheard of for a player of your caliber, and you're able to, show off that you're able to go through adversity. I mean, you also were hurt at the same time, and you were taking courses on top of that and going on the road, and you had practices and probably PT. I mean, at one point, it's like you said that the process before that in the game of basketball was overwhelming itself, but what was that journey? What was the experience like, traveling on the road and knowing that you were hurt and knowing you had to take classes, and you had this mindset of going to school for 3 years and graduating in 3 years, which you did. Yeah. I mean, was there a time where you felt like this is too much?
I mean, I definitely think every student athlete does, for sure. I think every student, I think every athlete, I think every person goes through those moments when you're like, holy, like, how am I making it through? You're struggling. And, that's when I really just lean on the people around me and my support system. I think for me personally, I kind of thrive more when I have more on my plate. So I was able to do an internship and able to be a part of all these different organizations and have on-campus jobs and work.
That's incredible.
And do all these different types of things. And, I was very determined. But, it's all about time management, and you learn how to do it. My freshman year, I would not have been able to do it. But it's a different situation when you've been there for a couple of years, the ropes, and the department, and have these people around you that have been supporting you for so long. It does sometimes it's overwhelming, but most of the time it's just your life.
So what kind of internships did you take, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah. So when I was in, like I said, I want to work in athletics one day. And at Stony Brook, we have the life skills department. So for our student athletes, so I got to intern with the life skills office for a year and a half, I guess. And like year and a half. So I would work, I was kind of the head of our PAC mentor program, which helps student athletes, incoming student athletes, connect with some veteran student athletes to help them acclimate to the school. I was a TA for our incoming seminar class. I was the lead TA for that. And then I did different, events that they had held. And then our biggest project, I guess, would have been, we were in the midst of organizing a women's in leadership kind of group. Because me and the GA that was working there saw that there was kind of a lack for that in the department. So we had constructed and from the ground up really just built this women's in leadership empowerment program that didn't get off the floor yet because of COVID, but we're hoping in the fall we can kind of spearhead it and get some events running.
A very impressive resume just in that, just alone in those 3 years. And also, what about the camera work that you helped out during other sporting events? I mean, me and Ken were there to witness that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I worked, with Chris Lizio, I worked in the athletic communications and
that's awesome.
Streaming when I can. And then I worked in the equipment room. I was doing football's laundry on Sunday nights. So yeah, I was definitely had my plate full for sure.
Yeah. Again, it's going back up. It's just going back on the court. It was something we always bring up pretty much every broadcast is whenever you're on the court, you're guarding the best player, whether it's Tasia Oliver or Kai Moon, the reigning player of the year, or Dosar this year. It's always you being able to guard them. So what is the training like, and how do you prepare, like, mentally? How do you get in the mindset of being able to prepare and go against the best players in the American East?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, I mean, these players, I think that now they're really starting to make waves, but, the top players in our league are extremely talented players. And I think for me, it's very, very easy to feel, a sense of pressure, because it's like, oh, like if Kai Moon scores 20 points in this game, then we lose and it's my fault. But, I think that comes from the support and from my teammates and my coaches. And, I just have to constantly remember that my coaches wouldn't put me in this position if they didn't think that I could do it. So just the way that they believe in me is just trying to channel that mental aspect of I need to believe in me and I need to believe that I can do it. And on top of that, my teammates always have my back. We're not perfect and no one is. So of course I'll get beat sometimes. They're going to hit a three. I mean, these are top players, they're top recruits. They're great players. So they're going to score and it's going to happen, So I know that my teammates got my back and that they trust me. And I trust them just as much.
So you say you're able to hit well from beyond the arc, which allows you to drain down the 3-pointers. And being able to suppress players such as Kai Moon, who was, of course, the America East Player of the Year, it seemed like a very important factor in that semifinal game. You guys had, I believe it was somewhat of a 14-point lead, a 12-point lead actually, entering the fourth quarter. They were on a 5-0 run to cut it to 9, but you were able to preserve Stony Brook's momentum by achieving a 3 from the top of the key.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about. Basketball's a game of runs, and we know that. And Coach McCombs, all credit to her. She's a great coach, and she knows how to keep us steady. She doesn't let us get too high, doesn't let us get too low. But moments like that, we really have to try and shift the momentum whenever the other team's going on a run. So, I can't remember exactly who passed me the ball. I'm sure it was KK, but don't quote me on that. But she's the assist queen. But it's probably a great screen from somebody on the weak side, from a great pass that helped me that shot. But yeah.
And that game too was incredible because you, the whole team, but especially yourself, really silenced Kai Moon for much of that game, if I recall correctly. But you held her down to 3 points of even one half, and was able to be a big factor in that as long as your offensive success. And of course, coming into this season, we're going to see some new faces. Obviously, no more KK Hilaire, no more Cheyenne Clark, but we're discussing some of the new players as well that could fill those spots, especially in the forward position. You returning, obviously, you have Mackenzie Boucher returning as well for a final year, India Pagan, but Narimar Reyes is someone coming from 2 years of JUCO level ball, so that'll be there trying to vie for a spot in the 3 or 4 as well. So just talking about kind of the mindset and also what it's going to be like this incoming season with some of these new faces mixing in with some of the more established veterans like yourself.
Yeah, I think that we have, in my years that we've been here, me and my teammates and our coaches have really tried to build a really strong culture. So that way anyone that comes in kind of, sees what we're about and, rises up to that standard that we have, because we do have a high standard on this team. Coach recruits, she, all credit to her. I can't credit her enough. Honestly, she found some great players for us this year, and I'm so excited to get on the court with them. Asia being a strong point guard, it's just like, I'm like, nervous because I'm like, I'm going to have to battle out with her every single day in practice. But that's what it's all about. You want the best players you're playing against to be on your team in practice. So I'm super excited. We have a great veteran group. We have a lot of returners, Mackenzie, India, John A. We have a lot of returners who have kind of been in the program to help acclimate some of the incoming freshmen and transfers. But I'm super confident and I'm just really excited to play with them and see what that looks like for us this year.
And those battles in practice really help build a strong team. You saw that this year, I was like the program best 20-3. First, do you think you'll be able to replicate that in just insane awesome year? Or at the really, do you think you'll be able to achieve almost as much success for the upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's what we're striving towards. Every year looks different. And every, just the same way we're going to look different is the same way Maine's going to look different is the same. Every other team's going to look different. It is what it is. It's just about using the players that we have this year and making it work for us and seeing the best ways that we can be successful. As different as every year, all I know is that, me and my teammates, we're just going to battle it out every day in practice. And we're going to commit to being the best that we can be and give our 1% and pound the stone and do all the things that we know we can do and let the chips fall where they may. But I'm super hopeful. I'm super optimistic, and I'm just so excited.
Yeah, so you knew that with your decision to return, you knew that Caroline McCombs would return because of the contract extension that she signed after the season was over, which guarantees her stay as head coach for the next few seasons. From her success this past season and for the last few years, what can you expect of her relationship with you, the team, and probably more players to come in the future?
Coach McCombs is probably one of my favorite people in this entire world. And I know it's gonna, and I want to say that everyone has that relationship with their coach. And I don't know that, but I know that coach, she cares about us more than she probably cares about herself sometimes. And I would run through a wall for her. She's amazing. And she really works hard, again, to not just make us better players, but to make us better people. And I'm just so excited to be able to play for her. It's honestly such an honor.
And Hailey, I know we discussed, the team went 28-3, and this is the reason why we have you on the show individually is we haven't really discussed what did you feel individually was your best accomplishment this season?
Oh gosh, what a loaded question. I don't know.
I know you're all humble. I know. I just want to. I know you're a sweetheart at heart. I know that. I just really want to dive in to ask the tough question. What did you feel individually? It's okay to be a little selfish. You got to be a little selfish to win games. What did you feel was your best accomplishment this season?
Oh gosh. I guess it's kind of a tie. I mean, I had a career high at Pitt.
Pitt, yeah.
Which was definitely a high for me, just being at Pitt. I mean, I'm not one to check box score, but I did have a career high at Pitt, so that was pretty cool. And then, like you said, in that semifinal game, I was really proud of the way that I was able to guard Kai Moon. It's a task. It is a task. I mean, she is unbelievable. Her quickness.
Her step back is ridiculous.
Her step back is unreal. It's unguardable almost. You know what I mean?
James Harden-like, yeah.
And it's crazy. And so she's such a great player. So to be able to kind of contain her with, of course, the help of my teammates for sure, but being able to kind of do that and help my team out for sure had to be a pretty good accomplishment of mine.
Now, I'm pretty sure you're back in Pittsburgh now. For now,
yes.
How are you feeling? Health-wise, how's the what was it, the ankle or the knee?
Knee. Yeah. I'm doing good. Just trying to, I'm staying in shape. I'm trying to get my knees back to where they were for sure. Just trying to be as healthy and as strong as I can be, especially being, officially my last season, it's, it's like pulling out all the stops and just trying to be, in the best shape that I can be for my teammates.
And when was the last time you picked up a basketball?
What's today? Thursday night.
Yeah, wow. I didn't ask specifically. I just asked for a day, but we can use that as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're still working on.
Yeah. So yeah, my dad's actually an AAU coach, so I go with him to all his practices, and
of course,
I help out with his team and shoot, try and to do as much as I can without doing things I'm not supposed to with my knees, but still trying to keep my shot, just trying to stay consistent with that. So
what do you look to try to do here during the off season until college basketball hopefully resumes by November, while the pandemic continues to spread around the U.S.? What do you look to try and do for the time being?
Yeah, we don't exactly know when we're going to be able to get back on campus, all of us together. So they've given we're just trying to wait that out and make sure and get a final answer on when that will be. So we don't know, but right now it's about getting, stronger, faster, getting back into the shape, because, not just us, but, everybody is in the same position where we've had, some sort of time off and not being able to be in our consistent routine that we had been in for the past couple of years. So falling out of that and trying to get back into that, just trying to find that routine, getting stronger, getting faster, working on our skill work is really big right now. And then hopefully we can do those things now, so that way when we're able to come all together, we can focus on more team stuff.
I got two more questions to ask Hailey, and that's it. I know we're all hounding with a lot of information.
You're good.
But first off, we had Cheyenne Clark on about maybe a little over 2 months ago, and we discussed on how big, maybe a little shorter than that, but we wanted to discuss on the vitality of basically this is the year for India Pagan. And do you feel with all the tools that she has in her repertoire, the rebounding, a little bit of passing, the scoring, the defensive side, I honestly feel that she is a top candidate for America East Player of the Year next year. Do you feel that that is a high possibility?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that everyone just kind of sees, the games and sees the numbers and sees the stats, but no one's, just like we're the only ones that are seeing the work that India puts in, you know what I mean? Off, not just off the court, but just like in the weight room, on the court, overtime. So those types of things. And I think that, she'll continue to do that, and she'll really be a force to reckon with us. I'm glad she's on my team. I wouldn't want to play against her. So, you know what I mean? Yeah, I absolutely think, it's within her to do that. So, just like I said, we're going to continue to challenge her, and we're going to continue to push her, because we know that she can be that player.
And my last question, and it's kind of outside of women's basketball, but the men's basketball team did a complete revamp this year. 7 transfers. Were you really surprised about how much this team changed? And what were the relationships like with some of the players like Mikhail Foreman, Elijah Olanihi, Andrew Garcia, who I feel are the top 3 players that are really going to make noise in the upcoming years when they go to their other prospective schools?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a little bit disappointing for me. You know, those, you know,
Me too.
the women's and the basketball teams, like, we're super close, the women's and men's teams. So, you know, those are like my brothers. So it's definitely, I'm sad I won't be passing them in the hallways and getting to, you know, watch them all together in one game and see that. So I'll have to support them at Georgia and Miami and UCLA and where, you know, every which way that they're going. But yeah, I'm, you know, as a student athlete, you have to do what's best for you. And I believe that that's, you know, they all had to make really tough decisions. So I'm proud of them in the sense that they did that they followed their heart and they followed what they thought that they needed to do for themselves and for their futures. But I'm definitely, selfishly, and I'm sure the rest of Long Island, New York will miss seeing them and miss having them on the team. But, you know, Coach Ford, I'll credit to him too. You know, he's a great coach, and I saw, you know, I've been keeping up. So I've been seeing that he's been getting some great recruits lately. So I'm definitely excited to see what his team puts together this year.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, so it seems like that's good enough for now. So Hailey Zeise, thank you for joining us again, and we hope to
Thank you so much.
We hope to see you on the court with the team in November.
Absolutely.
Stay healthy.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
No problem. Have a good night.
You too.
And that was Hailey Zeise, who made her decision to return to the Stony Brook women's basketball team last Monday, and we could be seeing her help this team achieve back-to-back America East titles and still vie for that first NCAA tournament appearance.
You want to talk about a student athlete. The way that she answers her questions so maturely, articulate answers, and, you know, a very well-extended vocabulary. Some words that I had to look up on the source to see what it meant. But no, very well-rounded, great conversation. Great job, Zach, for getting that interview. And we'll see what Augie has to say next.
Yeah, as we did our best with women's basketball, we shall now transition over to football. We have Augie Contressa with us on the airways. Augie, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, how you doing, guys? I just want to make sure you can hear me good.
Yeah, I hear you great.
You're all good.
All right, perfect.
All right, Augie, I guess I'll start. You know, you're taking a senior a captain role on this team when, you know, your last season was really, really good. And this upcoming season, you know, high hopes, high expectations, a lot of leadership going in. You guys lost, I think, 17 seniors, some on the defensive side of the football, but mostly on the offensive side. When Coach Priori came in and discussed that you, Mike, you're going to be the captain, how did you react?
I mean, I was really excited because, you know, like basically my whole time at Stony Brook, I was waiting for the opportunity to get the captain role. And when he announced it, I was just ready. I was ready for it. I want to lead this team to great things next season.
All right. I guess next, just the schedule. When you see how the games line up, you know, you guys go on the road your first 3 games, and then you come back, and then you know, you start off your season in week 4 at Stony Brook. But then you're going to go to Florida Atlantic this year. I know that's probably a game to mark on your calendar. But how do you feel about the offense that's going into the season? You know, losing a bunch of wide receivers, some running backs. You keeping Tykel Fields, who I feel who will have a promising final ride with the Sea Wolves. But as far as your defense is concerned, how do you feel your offense will ramp up after losing a big amount of your offense last season due to graduation?
I believe we have a ton of young talent on this team, and Tykel coming back is huge. But the biggest thing, too, we got, like, a lot of our O-line coming back. I think almost every single guy is returning, which is huge for football, obviously. Like, we went up front, first of all. But then the younger receivers, they're very talented. And we got a couple of transfers coming, I believe.
Yep.
And then you know, Stony Brook stable. Coach P loves the run game, and I believe we got 3 great running backs with Tyson Lodi, Sabah, and then our younger freshman.
Yeah, Augie, Ken here for Central Sports. I just have a question regarding the schedule for next season. Just if you've heard any updates on this. 'Cause last week, Fordham, who's a member of the Patriot League announced that no non-conference games for any of their programs will be starting until September 4th. And the Stony Brook team has a football game against Fordham August 29th, week before. So to your knowledge, do you know, I know that game's still listed on the website, things of that nature. So have you heard any updates regarding if you believe that game's going to be continuing as of right now?
As of now, I have no information on that. Like, we're kind of finding everything out. Probably when you guys are finding it out too, because things are changing every single day.
Right.
So we just gotta stay on top of everything, and then I'm sure you'll find out sooner or later what our schedule is gonna look like. So I'm excited for that to come out too.
Yeah, for what at least regarding the schedule. Well, yes, what are you excited the most about in terms of the level of competition you're going to be playing this upcoming season?
I mean, the CAA is like one of the most competitive conferences you could be in. So, I mean, every single game is big, but I'm a big fan of playing Albany. Every time they beat us, so got to go back there and beat them.
Always that Empire rivalry that makes it all the more interesting. You've seen a lot of close games between Stony Brook and New Albany over the last few years.
Yeah, the games are always exciting, and it really doesn't matter how each team's doing throughout the year. It just always seems like that game is huge, and everybody plays at their best.
Yeah, so you see how many games you may be having on your list this upcoming season. If Fordham doesn't count out, you start off at Florida Atlantic, which could be a pretty big one to watch. They're coming off of CUSA Championship. No JMU this time, so you'll have some teams that you haven't played in a few years, which is William and Mary and Maine. You played them during your I believe it was your redshirt freshman season, and that was the first season that you started playing for the Seawolves.
Yeah, I definitely remember playing both of them. William and Mary, that was a pretty crazy win. We won that game with like the 10-second runoff.
The false start.
I don't know if you guys remember that.
Yeah, I remember. It was a false start on the Tribe that were with less than 10 seconds to go and a 10-second runoff. That's what cost them the game.
Yeah, so that game was pretty crazy, and
so
Maine again. That's another crazy game with the Hail Mary for the win.
Yep, Harrison Jackson from Joe Carbone from 35 yards out.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous game for sure. I guess Augie, I usually ask every football player this, but you wore number 8. I'm pretty sure the majority, your whole Stony Brook career so far, and going into your final season, is there any significance or anything that's symbolic about why you were number 8?
Not really, honestly. I mean, my first number ever was 42. So then when I got to high school, they didn't have 42, but they had 4. So I was like, okay, it's like 42 just without the 2. And then when I got to college, they gave me 8. I didn't pick 8. So when I saw 8, I was like, okay, 4 times 2, which is 8. I was like, all right, I guess it all connects.
And that does.
And on that topic too, it's funny that you have 2 leaders, Tykel Fields offensively, wears number 4, and you defensively wears number 8. I think just ties things together.
Oh wow, I didn't look at it.
There you have it.
Yeah, just reflecting a bit on last season. Defensively in the CAA, statistically, the defense was middle of the pack. One of the better teams defensively in terms of stopping the rush. But passing was a really back and forth battle. So, what are some of the adjustments you're interested in seeing, and you and the team are working on for next season?
I mean, definitely, like last season was a low season for us defensively, and that was definitely due to some injuries and then just other things going on. But total improvement all around the board is what we're looking for. That's in the air, that's on the ground. Again, like we haven't really been back at Stony Brook, so we've been having the Zoom meetings, and we've been coming up with some good things. But the most important thing is just getting that mentality back of not letting anybody kind of walk all over us, taking everything personal.
And I'm glad you brought that up too, especially regarding injuries. We were discussing it. We were discussing it just last week as well. It's just there's so many injuries across the board for Stony Brook last year. So how do you keep that mentality, or how to try to continue to maintain that mentality when you're seeing your star players left and right start missing games due to injuries?
I mean that's it's tough, but the younger guys, they got to be ready. When I was in their position as a younger guy, I would never wish injury upon anybody, but any opportunity given, you got to take that and you got to make the most of it.
Augie, if there is any moment that I remember where you had a standout play, which was 2 years ago when you recovered the blocked punt in for the end zone for a touchdown against USF, right?
Yes, that was me.
Yeah, that was you.
Andrew Trent blocked that punt.
Yeah, but you recovered it in the end zone.
Yeah.
I also want to discuss basically, the defensive relationships that you had. More than likely discussing, what was the relationship like, and what was your reaction to when you found your former player, Gavin Heslop, getting signed by the Seahawks.
Oh yeah, that was awesome because he definitely deserves that, and just me and him have tons of discussions about, just believing in yourself, and like he would always say, he's like, I'm going to the NFL, I'm going to the NFL. And like he really made it happen, and he's like a role model to me because he's 1 year above me now. He's got a good shot at the NFL with the free agent contract, and I'm just trying to follow his footsteps and just hopefully that same thing happens to me. I just need a chance.
Yeah. And last week we had Tykel on the show, and right after, he feels that he wants to go pro too, and more than likely with his stature and his mobility outside the pocket, I feel that is definitely possible depending on how this final ride goes. Because those first 2 years, Joe Carbone was throwing the ball, and he was in a quarterback battle between him and Jack Cassidy. So, what do you feel about Tykel Fields after Stony Brook is over? Do you think the NFL may be an opportunity for him?
Definitely. I mean, anybody who really wants a chance, like they just hold on, let me rewind. I think he definitely has a chance. Like you said, like the game is changing in the NFL, so teams are looking for mobile quarterbacks, guys who could throw the ball, guys who can do all the old quarterback stuff, and he's definitely on that wave right now. And Tykel's great, and that's why I'm excited to get back to, because I know he's fired up and he controls that whole offense. And I really do think we're going to have a great team, great season this year.
Yeah, so we talked about the wide receiver versus the slew from last season who departed due to graduation. We talked about the ones that will be stepping up. Probably you got Delonte Helms. You also got Sean Harris as well, and that transfer from New Hampshire, Malik Love, another player who you probably have enough history playing against. What can you see from them as being vital weapons for Tykel Fields to throw to? Probably even the tight ends in Givens and Carter McCarthy.
Yeah, when I hear you list those names, I just think of guys who are athletic and who can make big plays. I mean, I know Delonte had a bunch of we call Delonte big play tag, because last year he had a ton of long balls catching. Sean Harris is a young guy, but super fast, great hands. Then even like Zay Givens, he could kind of play both. He could do tight end, he could do receiver.
Mm-hmm.
So we have like back to your original question in the beginning, I do think we have a ton of talent from the receiver point, and Tykel gets the ball in those guys' hands, we look good.
All right, I asked this question to Tykel last week, and he runs a 4.6 which I feel like he looks like he runs faster than that. But in your opinion, who's the fastest player on the team? Because Tykel said his. I want to see if yours is the same.
The fastest player on the team. I'd have to throw myself in there, maybe. I don't know. Maybe a little Sean Harris.
He said he's up there, but he said Randy Pringle.
Oh yeah. No, Randy Pringle's definitely the fastest.
Yeah.
When we do conditioning, he's kind of like glides on the field. He's fast.
Yeah, and he's a special teams guy. So, and I wanted to flash back and just looking at the way that you take care of your body, and looking at your looking at your Instagram profile and how you were in high school and going into Stony Brook. Your body has changed completely. Like, how often are you in the weight room, especially in the off season? Are you in there every single day?
Yeah, I gotta give credit to my dad. He was a big gym guy. So just growing up, like we have a gym in my basement, so I was just always around the gym, always working out. But in high school, I definitely wasn't the biggest. I think coming out of high school, 175,
yeah,
185.
I know. And you're what, 235 now?
Nah, I'm not like the most I've ever weighed right now is 218.
Wow.
But I think a lot of people say I think I look a little bigger than I am.
Yes. No.
It's the pads, yeah. But I know I'm definitely, especially now because we're just preparing for this season. I try to stay in the weight room as much as possible. I'm on a schedule. even like our strength trainer sent out the whole workout plan. So I've been on top of that since it's coming out. So I'm lucky. I'm one of the fortunate guys. Like I have a gym in my basement, and my girlfriend has a gym in her basement. So I'm always working out.
Oh yeah, I'm not surprised, especially how that connection is. I mean, what's it like to be, in a relationship with arguably one of the best lacrosse players in the country?
I mean, it's great. She motivates me. But yeah, she talk about someone who really knows how to work hard, and her work ethic's like no other. And it's great being with someone like that because it just makes me want to work hard, pushes me every single day.
Yeah, and I also want to ask this: was the name Augie always? I think it is Augustus, but where did the name Augie come from? Who gave you that nickname? Was that your platform, or someone say that to you, and then it just stuck there?
That goes all the way back to my grandpa.
Wow.
Yeah, his name was Achille, and he comes from might have heard of it, Rome in Italy.
Yep. Yes.
Achilles heel.
Achille. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
And then he came here during World War II, and then the whole story, whatever. He married my grandma, and then I have an uncle and an aunt, and there's eight cousins, and there's 7 guys and 1 girl, and I'm the youngest boy in my family.
Really?
Yes, and then no one named their son after my grandfather. So then my mom was like, someone has to do it, so let's do it. So then instead of naming me Achille, they named me Augustus, but everyone used to call my grandpa Augie. So then we're like, my parents said they'll call me Augustus, but a nickname, we'll call him Augie.
All right.
Now you're saying too that your dad was a big workout guy, and you said you're the youngest. So was your family really big into not only working out but also athletics? Were they also athletes during their high school and college lives?
No, like basically the opposite. Maybe one of my cousins was like a soccer player at Comac. He was pretty good. But my dad, a big Deer Park football guy, and then my dad actually played correction football. I think he at like 35 years old, he was still playing for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So football, obviously, in your blood. Do you see yourself in the next couple of years trying to going pro? And so, what do you think it's going to take in terms of that commitment and dedication to playing in probably the NFL?
Yeah, I definitely see myself in the NFL. I mean, I just need a shot. Like I said before, I gotta get myself to one of like the camps, a pro day, and then from there, I think teams would like me just based on like how I hustle and everything. And then, I mean, even my coach today, he told me I was like one of his favorite players he has because I just go so hard during practice. I have like no off switch, and I think that's what a lot like some guys don't have that, but I think I have a high motor, and I just always like I'm never really satisfied. Like even if I have a good game, there'll be one if I do one thing wrong during that game, I'm like, oh man, I did terrible.
That's tough. You have a lot of good games, especially a lot of tackle for losses.
Yeah, will be something to talk about. You're trying to be one of those few Long Island players who are trying to go pro. You had Elijah Riley from Army last season. He is currently with the Eagles practice squad right now, and Jack Cohen from Sayville, currently quarterback of Wisconsin. Of course, he has a chance to go pro. You're pretty close to home. Of course, I would know since I'm also a Comac native as well. What's it like to play right near your hometown?
I love it. I mean, you can't beat it because I can drive home. I usually do. I'll go home like for the home games on a Friday, get a home cooked dinner, see my family and everything, and then head back to school and then get ready for war.
King Augustus getting ready for war. I love it.
That brings up a good question, though.
Yeah.
Because Zach's from Comac. I'm from East Northport. I could walk to Comac High School. But the whole you're only 20 minutes away from campus. Now, as a member of the football team, are you required to live on campus? Does anybody commute?
No, you can live home if you wanted, but there's guys who are in the dorms, there's guys who are off campus. Like I have an off campus house with other guys on the team. And then I do know some people who commute from home. So there's options.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't sure about that. It wasn't there was a scholarship requirement or anything like that. But hey, as long as you maintain the schedule, right, as a Division I athlete, which keeps you pretty busy no matter what you do.
Yeah, exactly. So, whatever suits you best,
Now, Augie, I know that you've been playing football for a while, and I just want to know, since especially going into the NFL, I always ask this question because I did work with one of your former teammates. He works at FedEx with me. John Haggart, and talk about a monster. Yeah, talk about a monster linebacker as well. He had a tryout with the Washington Redskins, but then they looked at his injury history. He had a really bad knee injury, I believe, in high school, and then he was able to revamp himself. Now, back when you were in high school, or you did get banged up a couple of times, little stingers last season, the season before that. But did you ever suffer any, season-ending injuries before Stony Brook or in the early years of Stony Brook?
On 3, everybody knock on wood.
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
No,
okay. Luckily I haven't. Luckily I haven't. Even before, I always tell my coaches, like, I'm like rubber. I just bounce around. I get back up. So hopefully that lasts for a pretty long time.
You do, but I'm pretty sure after every single game, you do have a couple of serious bumps and bruises, wherever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean this last season, like I cut my lip open, then I had to get stitches after the game, and then
What game was that?
I think which game was that? One of the home games out of conference. Was it Fordham or did we play Lehigh this year?
No.
That was in the playoffs the year before.
2 years ago. You guys played Bryan, Fordham, and Wagner in non-conference FCS.
Oh, it was Wagner. It was definitely Wagner.
Yeah.
And then I forgot
one thing I have to do.
I cut my head open a little bit.
Ooh.
My eyebrow. Then I had to get some like little stitch kind of thing, a butterfly bandage or something after the game too.
Man, you are a warrior.
By the way, guys, it's 11:02. You're listening to WUSB Stony Brook. We have Stony Brook defensive back Augie Contressa on the air with us now. So we'll continue on. But I just want to make sure we did what we had to do at the top of the hour. Go ahead, guys.
Yeah, and just on the two, we're going to be discussing more about NFL and football in the coming minutes. But who are some of your favorite players to watch, and who are some of your favorite players you like to emulate on the field?
Jamal Adams. He's definitely my favorite player.
Jets fan?
Kind of like, yeah, I'm definitely kind of plays like similar position as he does. I just love how he plays. Like it looks like he just has a lot.
How do you feel about the recent news with Jamal Adams and the kind of butting heads there between teams?
I almost hope he leaves so then I could take his spot.
If you're seriously a Jets
that would work out.
If you're seriously a Jets fan, then what do you think about Cam Newton going to New England in that case?
Oh man, I mean Patriots are smart. I feel like whoever they have, they're still together. So
yeah,
and Cam Newton's great, so that's pretty cool for them.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry I have to spoil this, but the way the AFC East looks this year, it looks like the Bills are stand on to win it easily.
Yeah, I mean the Jets' time is coming one day.
Jets may have a future, but it'll not be for like maybe about a season or two.
Well, I mean, at the same time, as I said, it's stuff I'm looking forward to with a developing team there. Sam Darnold, Le'Veon Bell, who's skilled running back. Hopefully, improvements in the offensive line could benefit the Jets. But for Augie, in your case, how do you deal with a team where they're developing this season, obviously going through changes last season as well, with a lot of players leaving and coming in? So how do you adjust? What is that adjustment period like in terms of creating that chemistry with your teammates?
I mean, it's very important for a team. The closer you are with your teammates, it makes you want to fight harder for each other. So trying to get that down is it's tricky, but it's definitely possible. Then we could do that just by hanging out with each other, locker room, weight room. We're together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But getting off the field together, that's what really builds bonds. And like I said, that's important for the team. So we're trying to build that. Like, the closer we are this year, we feel like the better we're going to be. And it kind of sucks with this whole Corona thing because we didn't have a whole spring ball. So that's definitely time away from each other. But I think we're all missing each other a lot right now. So when we come back, it's going to be a big reunion.
So, Augie, what's your training regimen look like as far as like, what parts of your body do you work out, and do you have a certain diet, or you just have a very fast and luckily gifted metabolism?
I mean, I think I definitely have a good metabolism because I feel like I can really eat whatever I want and get away with it. But
Me too.
I try to eat healthy as possible. But right now it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm lifting, and then Tuesday and Thursday try getting on the field, doing some footwork, speed, conditioning. And then body parts is basically everything.
And
football, you gotta be all around strength, so you can't really miss anything. That's what I love about football too, though, because I love working out. And then football, like even practices, it's like a workout. And then we go in the weight room, so just always around the gym, which I love. That's another thing I love about football.
And if there's one other player that I feel that more than likely will be a breakout player this year, despite some of the injuries he had early in the season, he's a true freshman. Tyson Lawton, probably one of the most gifted freshmen that I've seen in this conference. And what do you expect from him? I have very big expectations for several 100-yard games and probably 35 carries or more.
He's actually right next to me in the locker room. He's a great,
because
he's a great guy. Yeah, so 7 and 8 were right next to each other, and then Ty Kell's right across from us too. But yeah, he's outstanding. When he first came in, he's just an impact player right away, and he could do it all. He could run, he could catch, he could run you over, he could juke you out. He could really do it all.
Because you were looking, because that's the thing that was so shocking to me. You have a freshman taking that spot, and I'm going back to 2 years ago when you had that trio of gifted linebackers and Shane Lawless, Noah McGinty, and John Haggart, and then you came into that line as well. But when was the time where Coach Priori pulled you aside and goes, listen, I got to trust you now? Like, when did that time happen? Like, when he really started to facilitate and really tell you, like, all right, you're going to get this much playing time and you're going to be on this down. When did that come?
I guess it was really – so my redshirt freshman year, it was after that, like that spring ball. So
okay.
Going into my redshirt sophomore year, like the whole spring ball battling to like get the starting position. And then he told me, he's like, listen, we're going to go with you. And at first I was kind of splitting time a little bit. And
how do you say? He's like, listen, we're going to go with you? Or he was like more calmer like that?
Nah, yeah, he's got his voice, but it's a while ago. But I was kind of like always ready for that role. Like I never saw myself not being there. So like I wasn't going to let anyone take that spot from me. So when he said it, I was just ready. And then I guess I did pretty good because I'm still there. So
a hungry wolf is a dangerous wolf.
Oh
yeah. So you're hoping that Stony Brook is going to rebound next season after the later part of their season last year ended in like a hard way. What will you look to try and do in your role to help Stony Brook regain the ability to possibly be a playoff team?
Yeah, I mean, my role this year as a captain now especially is just keep everybody focused and keep everybody motivated, because I think last year we kind of lacked that a tiny bit. So, it's me, Ty Kell, TJ, and then Anthony Catapano as the captains this year. And we all did not like what happened last season. And we've all talked about it, so we're going to get everything in line. The lucky thing about like our position is that like I'm not alone. No one's alone on this team, so we're gonna all do it together.
All right.
So hopefully we'll see that hard work that you guys got in this off season and the lessons learned, and may hopefully lead into this upcoming season, which hopefully will still happen. But Augie, thank you for joining us tonight, and we wish you the best of luck during the off season.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right,
stay
Augie.
healthy, everybody.
Yeah, you as well. Again, knocking on wood as much as I possibly can on the count of 3.
All right, perfect. You're the man.
All right.
All right.
All right, guys.
All right, have a good night.
Okay, enjoy. Okay, so it's 11:09 and 53 seconds. We're a little bit past the top of the hour. Joe Soccoa has joined us, and we know what's on Joe's mind because it's on everybody's mind.
I don't know how he
Basically,
did
on my
it.
promo
Schedule. But before I do anything, we have to mention Radiothon, semi-annual fundraiser. And if you haven't figured it out already, because I know a lot of you who listen to the sports section listen to WSB at other times, and we have been reinforcing the point just a bit that we do rely on the listeners for a good portion of our funding. Some of it comes from the undergraduate student government. A good chunk of it comes from the listeners as well. And we do this twice a year, and we know what kind of times people are going through. Some people may be saving a little bit of money on the commute from working from home, but we do also know that there are a lot of people in the service industry who listen to WSB, bars and restaurants, and they're only now getting going. We understand. So we have this little option that may make things a little bit easier if you want to make a pledge. $5 a month. And it's charged to your credit or debit card. Do it on your credit card. You don't want cash taken out. Do it on your credit card. So $5 a month for a year, $60 pledge. And we see it immediately, and you guys can not even notice it. Because what does $5 get you these days? Starbucks? I always order 12 bold, so I never spend $5 at Starbucks unless I'm buying for somebody else. But in any case, such a small contribution can have such a big impact with WUSB. So if you are listening on WUSB.FM, I know a lot of you are, you can get to the form right on the homepage. It's not a problem. If you must call, do it the old-fashioned way, 631-632-6901, and you will be given instructions from there, if not a direct answer, to do what to do next. Do it online. It's easier, more convenient for everybody. And, you know, we're not Republicans here. We don't insist on showing up at the station and casting your ballot or anything like that.
Speak for
We are very
yourself.
impartial. Well, we're very impartial here. What we say is do it any way you can, because you don't need to choose. There's no cheating involved, right? So if you do it online, it's very convenient and it's there, WSB.FM. If you must do it the old-fashioned way and you want to talk to somebody on the other end just to make sure we're legit, well, unfortunately, you can't call us right now because we can't answer a phone. Well, we'll come up with something, or we'll go back in the studio. We'll do something to allow callers again. But in the meantime, you can make a pledge on WSB.FM. Okay, pitch done. Fire away, Joe.
Well, hope everyone's doing well. No, listen, we got the news that we were eventually going to hear, which was getting baseball back. Whether it was a 50-game or 60-game season, they settled on 60 games, commissioner imposed. And teams began, started, today, put their lists out for players that are invited to spring training 2.0. As you know, you're going to be able to, I think, carry 30 players to start, and then it'll go down as the weeks pass by, where it'll eventually be back to 26 players on a roster. However, the teams can carry up to 60 players in a taxi squad. So a lot of players are going to be coming down here, and they are going to be under a very tight window to get themselves mentally prepared for a baseball season that will start on July 24th. So
here's a good question, though, Joe. The obvious reason why they've expanded rosters is because the fast pace of the schedule, and they need to be able to switch people in out quickly. Well, what if somebody tests positive for COVID?
Yeah, that's obviously going to be their biggest issue, and I know that the biggest part of this whole agreement was the health protocols. And from what we've been reading, although we haven't seen any official documents, but what we've been reading from the reporters following this is that it was very extensive. They are very strict with some of the health protocols. They're talking, we saw some of it that players staff are not allowed to arrive more than 5 hours before a game, and then they have to be out of the stadium 90 minutes after last pitch. That includes the reporters who are on their own deadlines and stuff. So they are very strict. Also, they said that any player or coach that argues balls and strikes and comes within 6 feet of an umpire, they are subject to suspension. So we're going to be listening to a lot, if there's arguments that are being made, we're definitely going to pick up the audio, especially that they have to stand 6 feet apart and there's going to be no fans in the stadium. So,
now, how about
but this is, it's very,
how that works out.
very strict.
The media.
Well, the media, they are allowing people in the press box. I'm sure it's going to be very, very limited as to how many writers are going to be in there, and then they have to be out of that stadium within 90 minutes, which means, you got to field the questions. Of course, the players have to give, so it's going to be a lot quicker. You're not going to get as much material. And then these writers have to get their articles in on deadline. So it's certainly going to be challenging for everyone involved, but this is the only way this is going to work.
No, I definitely agree. And the other thing about it is that even if you have access to get in with the 90 minutes, with the social distancing and everything like that, will you go in unless you absolutely need to? Now, the big question we had before anything like I would do for anyone or anything like that is the people who are broadcasting the games will be on site. That's one thing that was a big question for all of us.
Yeah, but however, though, there's not going to be any away broadcasting team, which means, and I heard Michael Kay talking about this the other night, because they said that the broadcasters right now don't know anything as of yet, but they did say that regardless of when they got this thing going, that they would only have the home broadcasters be the broadcasters for both feeds, the home and away feed. And Kay said that the most likelihood of what they'll do is, because their TV booth is not really that big and it's very tough to socially distance there, that Kay said there might be one broadcaster in one booth and the other broadcaster in the away booth. And that's how they're going to socially distance it. And, that's what it seems like they're going to do when it comes to the broadcast. So, which means if the Yankees or the Mets are on the road, we're going to be listening to the home team's broadcast. So, we're seeing some leaks already in the schedule where the Yankees are supposed to open up against the Nationals in Washington. Mind you, the first time since 1969 that they're opening up in Washington. And I believe, we're going to have to hear the Nationals announcers and we're not going to be able to hear the Yankee announcers. And I think that's going to also go for radio, although we haven't heard anything. Again, there's still a lot of details on the media side of things to figure out.
That's cool. No,
these teams are going to be rough. But anyway,
well,
just
yeah,
looking at
what we do it in the America East.
Right.
That's how we do it in the America East.
Right. But no, with that said, too, it looks like a lot of what was agreed on. Well, it looks like what a lot was agreed on was similar to what the players offered in the original offer back in March. Do you notice any major differences or?
Not really. I mean, this, a lot of people sat there and were jumping up for joy that baseball is back. Yeah, it's great.
Right.
However, though,
apparently there is an alternative to this. You don't necessarily, like I said for the America East, when Stony Brook's on the road, we're there at Binghamton, we can watch the video stream with Binghamton's people and vice versa. Binghamton comes to us, they can watch Stony Brook stream with our people. Now, the road games for the home announcers, they're just going to do them from home, apparently. And now this is, well, in KBO baseball, I was actually up late at night watching a couple of innings of it. The American English-speaking announcers are not in Korea.
No, they're broadcasting from home.
feed.
But
They're broadcasting
anyway,
from home.
going back to what I was saying, though, as far as there's really nothing different here. This was literally the players saying, yo, we're not going to agree to a proper agreement, so you just tell us when and where to show up to play games and stuff like that. So there really wasn't anything different. And, yeah, it's the original deal that the players and the owners made prior to this whole thing happening, which was that they were going to get a full prorated salary on a commissioner-mandated season. And sure enough, it is a commissioner-mandated season. So there's no love lost between the two parties, and I think they have a lot bigger issues. And for right now, this is going to be a very well, looked at distraction between the two parties and stuff like that, because, players are now focused on getting back on the field. But as we saw these last few months at how dirty and how ugly it can get between these two parties, that is what is awaiting them when the CBA expires. The players are happy they're getting back on the field, but they are very displeased at the way this whole process took place. So,
especially when it wasn't necessary. They could have got 20 more games in.
It could have easily been an 81 game season, very easily.
Yep.
Yeah, it could have been just half of a normal season. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, yes, as Joe said, we already know that the schedule to start off the whole opening day is going to be the Yankees and Nationals. Of course, every person who's not an Astros fan at all would want to see that as the World Series. But yeah, I mean, we also notice the type of scheduling format for each team. It's going to be not just against their own divisional opponents, but geographical as well. Because we see, for example, there's going to be an NL East versus the AL East, along with their own divisional opponents. Like the Yankees, for example, they'll be playing against their divisional opponents, the Rays, the Blue Jays, and Red Sox, and Orioles. They'll also be playing against teams from the NL East, the Mets, Nats, Marlins, and the others from the NL East. That's how they're going to keep everything safe, as far as I'm concerned, so they don't have to spread too far into any places that may be a current hotspot for the coronavirus.
Well, if you're playing in the Central Division, you're going to have a little bit of trouble. If you are playing in the Eastern Division, still has the Rays and the Marlins. Yeah, and the Western Division still has the Diamondbacks and the 5 California teams, and California's having their problems. So you're not completely out of it. But the whole point remains is that testing and tracing in even a micro environment like baseball is the way to keep the numbers down. So if they do that, and like we've been seeing, okay, yes, have there been occasional positive results? Yes. For the most part, the sports that have gotten underway, whether it's European soccer leagues, whether it's the Asian baseball leagues, whether it's a PGA Tour, have been able to keep things pretty much under control. So that's encouraging.
Yeah, it is. Everything does look encouraging, and I think the way that they're doing this is the right way. I mean, I think I was telling somebody yesterday at work, I was like, at least we get to cut out the West Coast 10 o'clock games because, the Yankees, obviously, and the Mets are staying on the East Coast. There's not going to be much travel outside of their regions and things of that nature. So, look, and the other thing is too is that you're still ironing out the details because there's so many things up in the air because there is talk about the fact that, teams like Arizona, if those cases continue to spike, they might have to consider an alternative. And that has been discussed as far as other teams probably having to move, So imagine you're the Arizona Diamondbacks and you might have to go to Colorado or, California just to stay away from that. Like this is also another big wrinkle in this whole thing. So there's a lot of things that have to continue to fall into place without anything coming back or, them saying, you know what, I think it's unsafe to play. Because to me right now, guys, is the only way I will believe we actually have baseball back is when I see the guys take the field and throw a
Amen.
pitch.
I agree with you.
And throw a pitch.
Well,
Because
now another one.
anything can happen here.
Even then, it may be an MLB The Show stream, so who knows?
Well, here's another one. I've been thinking about this myself, and there was talk about, we'll put the games in the spring training facilities. Well, Florida, Arizona, forget about that. But moving out of, let's say, Chase Field, which is a major league ballpark, to a minor league ballpark in Vegas or someplace like that, it's a logistical problem too, because you have to set up the TV coverage, and in a major league ballpark, it's plug and play almost.
And the other thing is that, again, you mentioned broadcasts. Don't forget, we also have 3 other sports coming back at the same time. And it's going to get complicated on even that part as well. When it comes to what games are going to be broadcast and stuff, because you're going to have the NBA, the NHL, and MLB all going at one time. And the MLB,
fortunately,
the NHL,
the rights
and the
holders
NBA, yes, the rights holders are different. And fortunately, for the NHL, and NBA is the way that they're going to have to do it is their games are going to be all taking place in one day at times all through the day, which means you might have games starting at 10 in the morning to make sure that they can get games in throughout the entire day, because both the NHL and the NBA are, playing in one designated area. At least with baseball, they can operate on a normal schedule. And what I mean by normal schedule is that, on any given night, they have their, handful of 7 o'clock games, 8 o'clock games, 9 o'clock games, 10 o'clock games, because that's what the normal schedule is for them anyway. It's not, and they're playing in their own home ballpark. So you're not getting them into a confined area, all teams, like the NBA and the NHL. So there's so many things that have to go into this entire process on all aspects of the business.
Well, they're learning a thing too. But like I said, a major league, and I'm just talking Major League Baseball, I'm talking about NBA, NHL, NFL, doesn't matter. Those arenas and stadiums are plug and play when it comes to media coverage. And one important thing, let's say for NHL, for example, I remember during the preseason, the Philadelphia Flyers played a game in the Spectrum just before it was knocked down. Of course, they had played several years in the new building, but they wanted to play one last game in the Spectrum. Well, it was a big pain in the neck because the NHL scoring system, of course, had been ripped out of there years before. So everything had to be done by hand, by people in the New York office, namely me. So I remember that. And that was one of my first tastes, I guess, of logistics when it comes to staging Major League sports. And yes, ESPN does have one major problem because they are the rights holder, or a rights holder, I should say, for Major League Baseball and the NBA. And the NBA schedule, as compressed as it is, they're going to have to, they only really have 2 big games a week, Sunday night and Wednesday night. So they'll probably figure out a way to get it in.
Yeah. And on that too,
the NBA is playing nonstop.
Yeah, and on that too, just seeing the NBA release schedules this week, a lot of their big games are from Sundays is on ABC, a lot of their more marquee matchups we've seen on ESPN. So just adding on to that,
which is
there's
smart.
already a slew, especially I think Lakers Clippers is going to be on ESPN.
Yeah, the
So
Lakers
that's
and
a big one right
Clippers.
there.
Yeah, the Lakers and Clippers.
Well-
That's a pretty good classic LA rivalry. Especially
One
this-
big mistake that I think ESPN made when they got the rights after NBC. NBC, of course, didn't have NBC Sports Network. They were strictly broadcast. They had their marquee game on Sunday afternoon. Okay. So that was the game everybody watched. And it was always a big matchup. And if the Knicks were involved, and remember, the Knicks were good back then, it was a big event too. Like I said, I always loved talking about the afternoon that Charles Oakley shut down Shaq for a quarter, the entire fourth quarter. Or John Starks showing up Michael Jordan in Knicks Bulls game on a Sunday afternoon. So Sunday's a national game, and guys would always talk about it that they had to be on their A game because the whole country was watching. Game of the week. And that's one thing that ESPN went away from. They should have had a Sunday afternoon game on ABC every week during the regular season, and then, of course, playoffs and finals and what have you. And that was a big mistake, I think, the way they set it up. What was ABC doing? I mean, what were you? What was it? The NBA displacing?
The whole world of sports, if I recall correctly, just regular TV, nothing too special.
I think they had the
But
opportunity.
also, one thing I should remind everybody from Stony Brook front, Travis Jankowski, Daniel Zamora, and Nick Tropiano are on rosters. Pat Cantwell did make Toronto.
Tropiano's with the Yankees, no?
Yep.
and Zamora's
he
with
is.
the Mets.
Oh,
Yes, he
boy.
is. Travis Jankowski is with the Padres. Yes,
All
they
the
made their
boys. They got
rosters.
some guys.
Jankowski's actually
Yeah.
with the Reds.
The
Unfortunately,
Reds.
I mean, we'll see. We may see Tropiano. We may see Zamora.
Well,
We
with
won't
the
see
injuries,
Travis.
well, the injuries in the pitcher position, especially Severino,
Won't see
Tropiano
Freddie.
could get that chance.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's a
But-
lot of young guys. There's a lot of young guys down there that might have more potential.
Everybody's fair game. Everything is fair game. So
Joe, I
the
haven't
great
really
thing
had
about
a
it is
I'm
that
not.
I haven't really had a
somebody's
chance
got
to.
golden opportunity to make an impact.
Jim.
Yeah, I haven't really had a chance to discuss this with you, but I remember last couple of weeks, your opinion and your perspective on Rob Manfred, wasn't really high on. But no, now since that baseball now has a standard quota on when they'll be back, how do you feel about Manfred now? Has anything changed since he's done something?
No, not really. Nothing has really changed because he didn't really do anything. It was just this then had to happen where he has it in his legal power to say, hey, we're going to have a season because per the collective bargaining agreement, we have to put on a season. So really didn't do much. Nothing has changed for me. I think he made himself look like a fool through these negotiations, especially putting his foot in his mouth a couple of times. And I still think that they need to find a new commissioner. And it's only going to get worse, especially when these negotiations begin for the CBA.
Mm-hmm. And
Well,
I
it
saw,
really depends.
and
If-
I recently just saw on Twitter.
If Manfred maintains the interests of the owners and represents the interests of the owners adequately, Manfred will keep
He's
his
not going to
job.
go anywhere. Of course.
Okay. And they're the only ones who decide whether he keeps the job or not.
Yeah.
Now, if he does so and gets clobbered by the Players Association, which I don't believe is a given this time around, because Don Fear isn't there and Marvin Miller is long gone, I don't think that the Players Association is still powerful. I don't necessarily believe it has the clout it did 20 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I just still think it's going to be a very ugly battle that they're heading down, and I don't think Manfred needs to do it. But the owners are the ones that put him there, so it is what it is at this point. We're just gonna enjoy We're gonna enjoy the small amount of baseball that we're gonna get. It's gonna be very interesting to see how the strategies work out. I know that there was one manager already, and I'm pretty sure it was Dave. If it was what's his name? Dodgers manager. Wow, why am I drawing?
Dave Roberts.
Dave Roberts. He said that there's a very good chance that his starting pitchers are not going to go past 4 innings in the first rotation. So this is going to be a very, very interesting season. I'm curious to just see how it all plays out, if it all plays out.
This is
and it's just going to be it's going to be a Band-Aid. That's what it is. It's a Band-Aid for right now,
doubt.
Before things really explode.
It's a matter of whether or not this Band-Aid can stick on.
If I really had to describe
approach.
on how this is, it's going to be an adequate season. It's better than nothing. You mean you're putting the effort. You're not getting the full season that you want. I think the word to describe it, like how you said, it's a Band-Aid. It's adequate that we have baseball. It's not the best version of baseball that we're going to have, but we're getting something. We're getting a little bit of baseball that everyone can, love and enjoy again.
Guys, I think that Roberts' approach, I understand that he wants to preserve the pitchers, but with a 60-game season, is there as much of a need to do so? Look, he doesn't want to burn people's arms out. I get that. And they've been sitting for a long time. No. And the spring training is not as long as the original one is, and all that wonderful stuff, all these other pressures that are going on. I understand that. But
the other thing that you look at, though, is you're right, they don't have to, it's not really a big issue right now. I mean, because the objective would be that around that 60-game mark, when the playoffs then would start, that's usually around the time pitchers are, sharper. They are better than where they were the first, those first 60 games and whatnot. That is usually around the point that pitchers kind of get their stride a bit and go on those ridiculous, hey, we won 4 or 5 games, in a row, the last 4 starts and things of that nature. So, that's probably, I think, would be the best strategy here. And that's the reason why, holding them back to start is not going to be so damaging, because they'll want to prepare them for that long stretch. Look, anything can happen. And I think, anybody that I've spoken to, it's going to be fast and furious when it comes to these division races. They're going to be tighter than we've ever seen, because of the fact that it's only 60 games and, everybody's trying to win, because everybody's got a legitimate shot at this. It's if you start the season 2-10, you're in big trouble,
Right.
And we saw some people after, the announcement came down, they showed what the first 60 games looked like from last year. The Yankees had a 2.5-game lead, so you start those comparisons, but it's definitely going to be interesting. But yeah, it's really not a big issue that you're going to get starting pitchers going only 4 innings, at least the first maybe 1 or 2 starts. And the other thing is I wanted to transition over, because that kind of ties into, I know, we were talking, whoever was it that texted in the group, I think it was Ken.
Yeah, that was me,
about the does Sevy stay on the roster? No, he doesn't. He transfers over to the 60-day IL. He won't be considered for the roster this year because of the Tommy John surgery. But it's going to be a lot of big decisions, and the Yankees have some options to choose from, obviously. It's going to be pretty easy for a lot of teams to start the season when you can carry 30 players, which is 4 extra players than what you're able to carry, in the regular season. But then that number is going to get back to 26. I think it's like 3 or 4 weeks into the season. So you're only going to have 30 players to start for a very short period of time before you go back to that 26-man roster. But again, the other advantage that these teams have is that they're going to have a taxi squad behind it, because there's going to be no minor league baseball being played at all. So these young guys are literally, basically banking on a year that they might or might not, get some playing time. It's beneficial to an extent for certain teams, but it could also hurt certain teams. So that's why I said, I mean, outside of the fact that me as a traditional baseball fan is angry with both sides, I'm still going to watch, and I'm still going to be very into what's going on now. I mean, first for me, the priority is going to be the New York Rangers qualifying matchup. That's going to be first priority, and then the Yankees, because at least the Rangers could be out within a week. That's priority number one. But I'm definitely going to pay attention to see what comes of this type of season.
Yeah, and I think you said it, unpredictable is the best way to describe it, because every game matters, obviously, but especially in a shortened season where you're only playing 60 games, every game matters. So you're going to see a lot of different things you haven't seen in a normal baseball game. As you said, I think Dave Roberts' managing style is going to be the new norm for this year, where you have a lot of, well, not a lot, you have a good portion of teams resting their starters after a few innings. Until the season progresses on, they start playing more and more. It's great for the younger up-and-coming players, because I think you're going to see a lot of new breakout players, especially, as you said, for MVP, because who knows who's going to win? Because all it takes is getting a hot streak for a month and riding that wave for a good 2/3 of the season, and you're a top candidate for that. So you don't have to be a Mike Trout or Pete Alonso, where you're always at that peak for every game. You could be someone who's able to just get a good hot streak for a couple weeks and just be able to feed that momentum to the team. And so you're going to see, I think, 100%. A lot of young players really step up this season.
100%.
Yeah. One important thing you have to look at, though, is that, Joe, you mentioned earlier the 60-game stretches. I believe ESPN's got an article out about them, 60-game stretches, best 60-game stretches. The A's winning 20 straight in August, all those crazy things. The approach on 162 game is so completely different versus 60. The closest comparison we can make is NBA or NHL when they think in 10-game stretches. At 10-game stretch in either of those leagues can make or break you. Just look at what the Islanders were doing in November.
Look,
the Islanders notoriously bad Novembers. And
I think
because of that, I've seen Yankee playoff games. We all have. This is recent. Start their season something like 30-30, or 35-25, or 32-28, or something like that. Something really barely above 500.
Don't be surprised if
500 and make the playoffs.
Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if a team finishes under 500 and makes the playoffs. But piggybacking on what Ken was saying, you're going to see, I think, a lot of these potential young stars come up and put on the opportunity, especially because I think it's inevitable. You're going to get guys that are going to get hurt because of the fact that, they haven't been playing baseball for three months now, and you can only do so much in your mansions or wherever they have, wherever they train and stuff like that. So, it's inevitable that guys are going to get hurt, and they're going to have to work with those taxi squads and with those young kids. And that's why, I didn't mean, any disrespect to, our Stony Brook guy, Nick Tropiano, but I just think that you're going to see a little bit more competition from these younger studs that are going to want to come and make this team and be a huge asset to this team. I'm looking at the Yankee roster right now, and then, I'll jump over to the Mets roster. To me right now, the 30 players that I think will be on this team when this all starts is the usuals that you would expect here. So I think the Yankees, I think they're going to stick with carrying just 2 catchers. There's no reason to carry 3 catchers. I don't think that makes any sense. So I think in my mind, you're going to probably get Sanchez and Higashioka, who will be the two catchers. If they happen to carry a third catcher, I think they'll probably either give it to Kratz or Josh Tolley. But more so, I think Kratz in that aspect, they owe it to him. Then looking at the infielders, you're going to get the usuals, the everyday guys, the Luke Voigt, Gio Urshela, Gleyber Torres, DJ LeMahieu. And I think they're going to probably, out of the infielder group, probably carry Mike Ford and Tayo Estrada. And then don't forget, you got Tyler Wade and Miguel Andujar, who now are, one of three players on this list that are, those versatile players where they can play the infield or the outfield. Your outfield, I think somebody said this. I think this was probably the best tweet I saw over the last couple of days with baseball coming back, is Aaron Hicks is going to be the only player in Major League Baseball history to have Tommy John surgery and not miss a game. He's going to be ready to go when, he's going to be ready to go when the season starts up. Judge is still on the fence, but, he's going to make the team. Tauchman, Stanton, Gardner. I think Clint Frazier is going to be here as the other outfielder. And then, of course, like I said, they have the options with Andujar and Tyler Wade. And then you look at the pitchers. You got Garrett Cole, so that's taken care of. Got J.A. Happ, who now becomes a huge piece in this rotation. You got James Paxton.
I was under the impression that Happ wasn't coming back this season.
No, he's back. Yeah, why wouldn't he be coming back? He's the fifth starter. I mean, they tried to look to trade him at the winter meetings, but, ultimately Cashman held on to him. So he's going to be in that rotation. So like I said, you have Garrett Cole, J.A. Happ. James Paxton is back to being healthy. You got Masahiro Tanaka. That's your four starters right there. And then the fifth spot, if you really want to look at it, it'll be a competition between Jordan Montgomery and I think Jonathan Loizaga. With then the loser of that rotation spot will go in and be the long innings man out of the bullpen. And then you have your bullpen guys: Zach Britton, Aroldis Chapman, Chad Green, Jonathan Holder, Tommy Kahnle, Adam Ottavino. And then to me, I think that the Yankees are probably going to carry Luis Sessa, because they always carry Luis Sessa. And I think they're going to give this kid, Deivi Garcia, a look here. So, it's going to be very, very interesting, as Ken said, with these rosters and some of these young guys. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting battle, at least out of the Yankee camp. And it all goes by who is mentally prepared for all of that. So,
and just two things. First, as you said, just an impressive lineup. So two questions would be, because Zach brought up a good point. He said the Yankees were looking of getting rid of J.A. Happ. He's returning. Oh, sorry. Originally, what I was going to say was, in terms of the fifth starting spot, that's probably a match you want to lose if you want more playing time, because you can expect a long reliever, at least for a good portion starting the season, of showing up in every or just about every other game in terms of relieving pitchers after early pitching duties. But again, my two questions also would be for J.A. Happ. Do you think this is more of a bounce back year for him? Do you think he's gonna, with everything going on now, is this beneficial to him that it's a shortened season? And at least in the batting side, it's gonna be a bit more tame. And also, what impressed you about Garcia compared to some of the other utility players out?
Well, as far as J. Happ is concerned, I think it's 100% looking to be a bounce back for him. I think they want the J. Happ from 2 years ago when they acquired him and how vital he was down the stretch. And then it kind of got a little turbulent for him. They hit a lot of home runs off of him. But then if you actually watched early on in the spring, I thought his, 3 or 4 starts that he was able to get out of the way from, the start of spring training, they were fantastic. I think he threw the ball very well. I think he looks like he is he's back with a little bit of that power. So I think, he is a prime candidate for the bounce back. And I think he is, listen, we all have heard of this kid, Deivi Garcia. The Yankees have, held him back a little bit because they wanted to make sure he was able to develop the right way. They didn't want to rush him. And I think that they're still in that same thing. I think they're still going to be patient. However, though, I think this is an opportunity because it was talked about a little bit towards the end of last year that Cashman wanted to bring Debbie Garcia up at the, when the rosters expanded last season just to give him a look here and there. But then they were kind of like, you know what? I think he needs a little bit more development. So I think this is the year that we see Debbie Garcia crack this lineup and, really see what he can bring. Will he be a 4 or 5 inning guy? No, probably not. They'll probably put him in the bullpen. They'll make him come out for an inning or two, see what he can do there. And then slowly we'll gradually see him work his way up the chart. But I don't think there's any rush there. So, like I said, a lot of options. And just I don't think you want to lose a rotation spot because ultimately, the first month or so of the season, the long relief guy is probably going to get some innings to help out. However, though, once you get into the fact that then these starting pitchers can go, you want to be in that fifth rotation, that fifth spot, because you're considered, all right, I made the rotation, which means they're counting on me to perform in that spot. So I don't think it's going to be a job that anybody's going to want to lose. So, but yeah, like I said, the Yankees have options. Then you look at the New York Mets, which
Tim Tebow.
I personally think they could benefit from a shortened season, given the fact that what we've seen, obviously a lot of things going on behind the scenes. The Wilpons are actively trying to sell this team, so the ownership is under the spotlight there. The fact that Carlos Beltran was the manager, and then he didn't get to manage a game before he had to step down because of the whole Astros thing. So now you got a new guy in here. So there's a lot of things going on. However, this is a healthier team. They addressed a few needs. I think they are quietly staffed very well with that pitching rotation, believe it or not, even though they lose Zach Wheeler. I think bringing in a combination of a Michael Wacha and Rick Porcello will certainly help, especially with the experience both bring to the table. They also have Chasen Shreve that they had gotten from the Yankees. You have Dylan Betances in the bullpen. I think they addressed a few needs there. Then you have to wonder, all right, is Jed Lowry going to be healthy? Can we expect something out of Yoenis Cespedes? The other thing is that there's going to be the DH, so the Mets have the advantage there too of putting a player in that lineup that will provide a significant amount of offense, and that's where Yoenis Cespedes comes in, where he doesn't have to play the field. He's just the DH, and he'll be smacking home runs all over the place. So there's quite a few options for them, but you know what? I think right now I'm torn for the Mets, but I could definitely see them, benefiting from a shortened season.
Yeah, the only problem they have is that Noah Syndergaard won't be with them because of the injury that he sustained just about a few months ago, which takes him out for about almost a year, I guess to say. So it's obvious that this season is out. So as you said, new pitchers are coming in. Some veteran pitchers they have to rely on already, such as the 2-time Cy Young Award winner Jacob deGrom. He'll be the Garrett Cole to the Yankees. So there's much to understand about that concept.
Right. And I gotta say, do you think that this East Coast, these 10 teams, do you think this is going to be the most competitive group of teams in for the baseball, or do you think the Central or West probably brings more to the table?
Yeah, I think. Listen, if you really want to know what I did today, I placed a bet on the Miami Marlins to win the World Series. Okay?
Braver man than I.
I'm at the point where anything can happen, and there are certain teams in this league that I think will benefit from a shortened season, the Mets being one of them. Listen, the Marlins quietly improved their team significantly over the last year.
They definitely did.
And the fact that they brought in some veterans and they spent a little money there, but they've also turned their farm system from like ranked 20th to like 6th best in the league. Anything can happen at this point. But listen, I threw a $50 bet down on the. I threw a $50 bet down on the Marlins to win the World Series. If they win, I win $37,000. I'll take it.
No pressure.
Yeah. That's well worth it.
Yeah.
Well then.
100%.
Risk versus reward.
I also want to bring up quickly. I just want to bring up quickly because we're talking about schedules as well. What are some of the games you're looking forward to the most?
Honestly,
not for baseball and also NBA.
Honestly, Ken, are you new to the program? Did you ask me what games am I looking forward to for the NBA?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think you might be new to the program here because I will not watch an NBA game.
Lakers Bucks, man.
Well, we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what the baseball schedule is. I hope it comes out within the next day. I'm hoping it's out by tomorrow so we can at least see what's going on. We saw the leak, obviously, for the Yankees and Nationals. I think that's one hell of a way to start the shortened season. But listen, they're going to be playing the teams that we're used to them playing, which is in their division. You obviously look forward to a Mets-Yankees game. The fact that they're going to play all the teams in the NL East as well, possibly. I think I'm just looking forward to what type of season this turns out to be, and if in fact if a team wins the World Series, does it really count in some people's minds? So we'll just have to.
Let me put it this way: Devils, 1995. Okay, and the other lockout season, 2013, or the NBA. 1999,
or NBA
got
2012.
to the finals. Yeah, or NBA 2012. Yeah, I mean, the other leagues have played half seasons before. So, yeah, it was a mad dash, and maybe a few teams that wouldn't have had a chance otherwise advanced further. But also remember that at least in 1995, the Devils got to the conference finals and lost on overtime goal.
Yeah.
In Game 7. So they were legit.
I mean, for some people, it'll count more than what the Astros did past couple seasons in terms of credibility and how legit it is. So.
And also, when you get to the playoffs, no matter how many teams you have in or which teams are in, the cream will rise to the top. Can somebody get lucky? Yeah. But when you look back at every team that has won, do you find any, except maybe the Astros who cheated, any untainted ones that didn't deserve to be there? Even the 0-1 Diamondbacks. Okay. Were the 0-1 Yankees better? Yeah. 0-1 Diamondbacks got lucky. But they won. And no one can take that away from them. So whoever comes out on top this year, it counts.
Okay.
So it is 11:58 and 15 seconds here on the sports section, which means we are approaching the witching hour. WUSB Stony Brook, of course. But I want to get in another friendly reminder to make a pledge to Radiothon and mention the sports section when you do. And in the coming weeks, might have some special premiums. Maybe I can release a bobblehead or two from my extensive collection. Hey, I got them for nothing. Why not? I remember the Andy Chavez bobblehead. Somebody finally did claim that. But there are more where that came from. But the only way you're going to find out is if you listen and you join us next week. And that's where, well, we have a few seconds before we hit the absolute 12 o'clock hour. Guys, any final comments while we have it?
Just that
the NH. Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
Well, the fact that leave it to the NHL to complicate the lottery draft and team to be determined is the number one overall pick.
Wonderful.
It could be
That's
the
a
Rangers,
bullhead.
Joe. It could be a little
It could
stretch
be.
of luck right
Well,
there.
that's what happens when you hold the draft lottery when the season is still technically going on.
Yeah,
What are you going to do?
could be the Rangers.
Interesting times we live in. Well,
Yeah.
guys, we'll be back next week. Same time, same channel. A few more guests. Lots more to talk about, especially as we get so close to live sports action again. Have a great sports week in the meantime, folks.